Bushwhacks were some of the worst days I've ever had in the mountains, or life, really.
Whereas Panther Mountain is totally opposite. It's a mountain on top of a crater.
I think the weather challenges on this incident were particularly difficult.
It is really the development of New York State. Catskills were responsible.
Now you're listening to Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountains podcast.
So this says 139, but I think it's 140, correct? I think I have this wrong. I'm not sure. Hold on, let me check on my notes. Let me check on my notes that I read, actually. Oh, it's 139. Yeah. So 139. Shit, I was wrong.
Yeah, because 140 is my 25th show with you.
Oh, no way. Wow, you keep...
Whoa. You mean you're not planning something? You don't already have something in the works? Because you can't throw it together in less than a week.
What does 25 mean? I don't know what 25 means.
It's our silver anniversary. Damn it.
Oh. All right, let me pop this. All right, this Vermont cider that we're going to talk about later. So welcome to episode 139 of Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountains podcast. Tonight, Samatha from the Catskill Watershed Corporation is going to be joining us. And I see something hopping across the screen. We'll talk about that later, Tad. Crazy. Are you going to pop that open?
Yeah, wait for it. Here, ready? We're going to do it now because I can't wait.
Oh, I might have got that. I'll try to enhance that. Cheers, mother. Cheers. So looks like we're recording. So don't forget to donate to the 1 mile challenge if you can. Do a 1 mile challenge every day. I'm supposed to walk or hike 1 mile or backpack 1 mile, and I usually do around 14 miles per day with my job. So,
wow, that's crazy.
And we've raised probably I'm thinking over $700 so far. So it's actually gone pretty well. So
and where does that money go?
It goes into the Guardian Revival Corporation, which is a support for veterans and first responders that I also give back to as well. So
excellent.
And just to let you know, also for the month of September, there is a reoccurring or a double donation that somebody is doing. It's called the Betsy Foundation that is doing it, and it's pretty cool. So if you donate, they'll double it. So
awesome.
So speaking of doubling and kind of over doubling, the state spends millions, which is New York State. Let's just say that New York State spends millions in forest ranger overtime, and lawmakers call for bigger force. Now, what the crazy thing is Tad and I have been talking about this for 25 episodes now, probably, saying that this is they do way too much with too little. And it's been finally addressed. So in early March, spring teased hikers at trailheads, but winter still regained at the Adirondack peaks. 3 days, hikers on 4 of the state's tallest mountains called for help. Rob P. answered them all. People say that this has just gone a little bit too far. First, there was a rescue on Wright Peak. The next day, a 33-hour marathon orchestrated 2 simultaneous rescues on Saddleback and Basin. And then another rescue was up on Marcy, a hypothermic hiker. So this happens all over the state. I would say a majority of this is in the Adirondack region, and then some's in the Catskills. But once again, there are 8 to maybe 20 rangers up in the Adirondacks region that has to haul out a hiker on Mount Marcy, or they got to call the New York State Police on Mount Marcy. And it's just happening way too often. The overtime demands resulting time from these search and rescue missions, and they come along with other issues with the DEC, including calls from rangers for improved equipment, additional training, and definitely some more mental health support due to them working so much. Now, the state is paying rangers more than $1.6 million in overtime annually, with nearly half of that going to the Adirondack Park. So we're talking about $600,000 No, wait, 800,000 going to the Adirondack Park. With some of the Rangers starting at a base salary of $61,000, overtime and amount paid in 2023 is equal to more than 2 dozen hires, not including the cost of benefits. So, once again, we're talking about the rescues in the Catskills, Adirondacks, and, being a search and rescue volunteer, I don't know if I can get into this, but I do not know why most of these times they don't call for volunteer first aid.
Well, one of my opinions, and I obviously don't know if this is correct, but it's an opinion. If you're a ranger and you're starting out at $60,000 a year, you're looking for overtime, right? Because, even though with a state job, you're going to get a pension, you're going to get health, you're going to get disability, you get a good benefit package. But living in New York State on $60,000 a year, particularly if you want to be the main wage earner for your family, that's not a lot of money. So they're looking for overtime hours, and it's a bargain for the state of New York because they don't pay for additional health insurance coverage or the other economic burdens associated with hiring another ranger. So that's why the state would have an interest in paying overtime, and boohoo the state for complaining about $1.6 million in overtime pay for rangers, because given the size of the state budget, that's really not a lot of money. But when I dug into this, you highlighted the story, and I looked into some of the background on it. Or for me, a New York State trooper starts off at how much per year, Stosh?
Well, you didn't highlight that, but oh wait, you did. 59,612.
Yeah. So when the state trooper is
59,000.
when the state trooper is in the academy and being trained, they start off just shy of 60,000 a year, and then their first year, the minimum salary is $98,300.
Jesus.
Right. But in comparison, a ranger, a DEC forest ranger, makes just shy of 63,000. So why the difference of about $35,000 for a state trooper?
3,500.
No, 30. It's 98,000 when you start your first.
Okay. Sorry. I thought you meant the current hiring rate.
Yeah. So again, just so we're clear, when a state trooper's in the academy, he's just making under 60,000. But when they start active duty, their pay goes up to $98,300. When in comparison, a forest ranger makes just shy of 63,000. A spread of about 35,000.
Wow.
Well, yeah. Why is it that a forest ranger makes that much less money?
When they do, I'm not saying, I haven't been a trooper or a forest ranger, but it seems like the forest rangers do much more work.
You got to carry somebody out of the woods.
Yeah,
right?
in cold weather mostly.
In dangerous conditions, presumably, searching for somebody. And I'm not diminishing what a state trooper does and the risks associated with their job. Yeah, there's a lot of risk associated with that job, but is it really a delta of 35,000?
Yeah, right.
Okay, I think the state of New York can do better. I think they can hire more forest rangers, and I think they can pay them better. Particularly, so there's not as much of a demand as there appears to be with them having to do rescue missions. And basically, at a salary of $60,000 a year, you're forcing the guy to work overtime to, have a reasonable standard of living. So,
especially, when you say that, especially where they have to live within those means of their parameters.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the Adirondacks. Imagine trying to buy a new home up there with that amount of money. Cadirondacks. Jesus, what the hell was that?
What do you got? What do you got in that drink, bro? Is that a hard cider or something else?
It is.
Damn.
It's so the Catskills, the same thing. Within the parameter they have to be in, the cost of living is insane because everybody has a second home. Everybody has, the salary that they based in NYC, and they have the cost of living is just absolutely enormous. So that is a great point. With hopefully, do we know any background information about after your first year hiring rate with the DEC? Like that's just
I didn't drill into, what the second, third, fourth year pay differentials are, but I would imagine there's that same gap.
there's got to be a significant, because I've never heard of a ranger saying like, oh yeah, their life is great. They're always working overtime. They're always on the edge. They're always, sitting with their phones and their radios ready to go.
Yeah. And then, they're in the middle of the night, they can get called out for a rescue. Whereas with the state troopers, I would think it's less likely because there's just that much more manpower with the state police force that their need to call somebody out of bed in the middle of the night to go do something is a lot less. So let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about retirement. The other thing I found out is that a New York State trooper, after 20 years of service, can retire with the 50% pension. But if you're a New York State Ranger, you have to work 25 years to be able to retire with the 50% pension. And remember, that 50% is 50% of a lower number because the Ranger is getting paid less than the trooper. So you need to work 5 more years and you're going to get a retirement, albeit 50% of your pay, but your pay is less than what a trooper was getting paid. So it just seems a little discriminatory that you're treating troopers different than Rangers.
And I have friends that are troopers. I have friends that are Rangers. I have friends, that my nephew is looking to become a New York State trooper. And I am just flabbergasted that he wants to do that. I'm supportive of that. But, talking with these Rangers, especially, after recent, times that we've had, and I've known them, I've talked with them, that they are like completely worn out and that they push themselves to the max for the hikers, for the people and stuff. And I respect them so much.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot to be said for the demands on both of those occupations, and which led me to another find that
you find everything, don't you?
Yeah. I did a quick dive this afternoon when I saw you highlighted this story. So the positive of all of this is the Forest Ranger Foundation, which was started by a New York DEC forest ranger. It's a nonprofit that takes donation money, collects that money, and uses it to help forest rangers buy equipment and buy better equipment than what they're given by the state. What I didn't realize, but I shouldn't be surprised to learn, is that a lot of the equipment that the rangers use, they have to buy themselves.
Yep.
So I don't think a state trooper has to buy the gun, the bulletproof vest, and equipment like that. But apparently, if you're a New York State DEC forest ranger and you want a decent pair of snowshoes, you want some decent winter gear to go and rescue somebody in the Adirondacks in the middle of the night, well, the cost of getting that better gear is on you. So there is the Forest Ranger Foundation that takes donations and then redistributes that money to rangers to buy better gear to do the stuff that they do, albeit while getting paid less than a New York State trooper. So maybe we can put a link to that in the show notes. So donations can be made.
And I am reaching out to that, actually, the organization, and we'll get them on the podcast.
Yeah, let's do that.
That's insane. Seeing with their stuff that they've dealt with in the past couple of years, with COVID and such, they had to work down in New York City, then down in the capital region and stuff to get COVID vaccines. They were on site, and now hearing upon this that they have to work countless hours to make a rescue or stuff like that, and only so many of them can make a rescue. It just kills me once again, and it just makes me think, why, are we doing this to the Rangers, and why also are we not calling upon the volunteer organizations to help out and
Yeah.
such, to take the load off
Yeah.
of these Rangers? But I understand where they're coming from.
Yeah. So one of my intuitions, if you will, with not calling out local staff people, local volunteers to assist in search and rescue, might boil down to the fact that the Rangers want that overtime.
Yeah.
And
I understand now.
Yeah. And if you bring out a bunch of volunteers, that's just going to diminish the overtime opportunities. And it seems that there's a big incentive for a forest ranger to get as much overtime as they can to augment their wages.
Yeah. And, it stinks, of course, with the background you need for a forest ranger, of course, requires so much. You have to have a background in forestry, or you need to be, within, I think it's 4 to 5 years of military service or something like that. So it requires a pretty decent amount to be a forest ranger. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
you got to know a lot.
Yeah, you got to be prepared.
Yeah. And we talking about forest rangers. So there's a couple incidents that have happened within the past, week or so.
Tell us about them. Let's hear it.
Oh, of course, we got good old Catskill falls into a bunch of these areas. So on September 12th at 11:40 a.m., Forest Ranger Dempf responded to a call for a hiker who had fallen near Catskill Falls and was bleeding from their arm. At 11:55 a.m., Ranger Dempf, which was only 15 freaking minutes later, reached the 68-year-old from North Carolina who was halfway up the Stone Step Trail. His hiking partner and 3 other Good Samaritans used their shirts in an attempt to stop the bleeding and help. Ranger Dempf provided first aid, wrapped the wounds, stopped the bleeding, and helped the hiker to the top of the falls, where he was met by Ranger Fox, Hunter Police, and Hunter Ambulance, and Greene County paramedics. The subject refused further treatment and advised that he would get a ride to the hospital from a friend. Resources were clear at 1:30 p.m. Catskill Falls. And that's not the end of it. We also have another one, which was later
that afternoon.
4 hours later, 2:55 p.m. Ranger assistance was needed with the hiker experienced shortness of breath at the same exact Stone Step Trail at Catskill Falls. 3:15, Rangers Dauphin and Dempf again located the 76-year-old from Schenectady, who admitted he had only eaten 1 piece of coffee cake that day. Kind of will give you a shortness of breath, dehydration, and amongst other things. And they said hikers should make sure that they are hydrated and well nourished before heading out for an adventure. Catskill Falls is only around a total of around 2 miles, but the steps, I forgot how many I counted within there. I think it's 136 steps. It really brings in a lot. So extra food, water.
I got 137.
Oh, you got to be kidding! You're lying. Are you really? You're lying. You didn't count.
Who counts steps when they go to Catskill Falls?
I did when they first created that. I was very curious.
Oh.
They created that before I did 3,500 Club cleanup, and that was when they first did the steps. And I was just I actually hiked in from the parking area off of 23A,
mm-hmm.
and that
were you by yourself?
I was with Jessica. Jessica was with me.
Well, that must have been fun for her. You're like, don't talk to me. I'm 199.
Yeah.
100, 101. And she brings, and you're like, Jessica, don't talk to me. I'm counting. Can't you see?
She was ahead of me, actually. So I was just all right, she's up there. I'll count. And Dawson was below me. That was the first time I met Dawson. So he was pretty cool dude. Yeah. So the Rangers helped subject to Dawson's truck, where he was rested before walking the rest of the way to the Laura house in the park area. Resources were cleared at 4:07, so not even 2 hours later. So
they just have somebody stationed there on weekends. Right?
I guarantee it.
Yeah.
That closed parking area on 23A is their area. They're there to just go over and get within, I don't know.
You think that's their staging area? That's where they hang out now?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I mean, Dawson is there 24/7. That guy, I'm pretty sure he lives at North South Lake. And I know.
So the interesting thing is, they're there Saturday and Sunday because those are the busy days, are they getting paid overtime on Saturday and Sunday? Is that like overtime duty for them, or is that just regular hours?
I mean, I was going to say that's overtime.
Yeah.
Dawson's a hardcore worker. That guy is dedicated to the job. I gotta admit, and I've talked to him several times. I've tried to get him on here several times, but he he's a very good people person, but not a good media person. Let's just say that.
I just don't think the DEC is going to allow active duty rangers on our podcast.
Slade wants to come back. I
Yeah.
talked to him over this
Well,
weekend.
Oh,
Slade
really?
and Stratton.
Okay. Okay. Bring them on.
And we talk about that, on September 14th, 3 days ago, Raybrook District was contacted about an overdue hiker who had been dropped off at the Bissac Brook Trailhead at 7:30 a.m. The reporting party indicated that the 83-year-old from Shandaken met other hikers at the trailhead and had advised that she would get a ride from home when she was finished. At 12:50 a.m., so basically the next day, Forest Rangers Francesca and local police checked the hiker's residence and confirmed she had not returned home. Rangers Francesca and Stratton began their linear searches over Big Indian and Fir Mountains, where the subject was scheduled to hike. At 1:30 a.m., New York State Police received coordinates from the subject phone at Fir Mountain. When the Rangers arrived at the location, she was not there. At daybreak, 5 additional Rangers and Catskill Mountain Search and Rescue Team joined the search. At 10 a.m., the lost hiker sought assistance from a residence off Frost Valley Road, which is the road that basically Slide Mountain Biscuit Brook is on. The homeowner called 911 to report the missing subject was lost and at the residence seeking assistance. Lieutenant Slade and Ranger Stratton interviewed and evaluated the subject, who is in good health, and at 12:30 p.m., Shandaken Police drove her home. Awesome incident. Curious about this situation. It's 83 years old. Do you have like a thought of who it is? Because there's not many 83-year-old hikers in this area.
Well, I have a thought. I just don't know if I can and or should say her name.
Why not?
On the
Do it.
Well, I don't know if it's something that would be embarrassing to her, but she is a legendary Catskill hiker. And if you do know legendary Catskill hikers that are in their 80s and still hiking, this incident relates to her. I just find it interesting that she met other hikers at the trailhead. Does that mean she was planning to hike with them that day but didn't? That she started out hiking with them that day and fell behind? Is this another one of these situations where a group of hikers left somebody behind? I don't know, but that's interesting. And if so, it seems pretty late for the call-in about being concerned about her whereabouts. It was like midnight when they went to check on her at her house, which also is an indication that everybody in the Catskill hiking community that's been involved for a while knows where she lives.
Yeah.
Right? So, look, it's interesting. It's sad. It's great to see that she was found and that she's okay, and hopefully her hiking enthusiasm is still burning strong after this event. But
I would say so. Your confidence kind of goes sky high when you survive overnight in the Catskills up at Fir Mountain.
This was the time of year that you can survive overnight. A couple months from now, it's going to be a little more difficult. But this underscores the importance of letting people know where you're hiking and letting them know what time you're going to be out of the woods. And, anyone, like I tell my wife, I leave a note because I generally leave the house before she wakes up in the morning. And on my note, I have basically the time that I expect to be back in the car, have service, and reach out for her. And that hopefully is an indication to her to execute the fire drill, that if I'm not reporting back at the designated time, the first phone call is to the life insurance agent and then to my attorney who has the will, in that order. So,
yeah, same. I tell Jessica whenever I go out where I'm going, what time, I should be out of the trailhead and what time I should be contacting her, just like you do. And, it's with this instance, it's a big importance because people knew where she was, so they wouldn't have to go scrambling to be like, where was she? Big Indian Fur, there's only one trailhead, or you go to Seeger or Biscuit Brook, but she said Biscuit Brook, so they knew. She signed in. I'm pretty sure she signed in.
Yeah, well, it says right here that she met other people at the trailhead. So, and she's well connected in the hiking community, and I just again find it interesting that she somehow broke off from that group. If she was planning to hike with them or not, we don't know. But it wasn't until midnight thereabouts that they started to just check in on her, and it again just underscores the importance that if you're hiking solo, have a designated partner back home or somewhere, that if you don't check in with them by a certain time, they know what plan to execute in terms of calling out for help for you.
Yeah. Good job by the Rangers and the Catskill Mountain Search and Rescue Team. Really appreciate you guys. Working together is what we do here in the Catskills, and they did an excellent job. And I got to admit, it's awesome the connection we have.
But wasn't your search and rescue team called out on that?
They were. Can't confirm or deny that.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm going to go on. Move on.
We're moving on.
I haven't got approval yet. So,
all right.
So one of the bigger stories that you pointed out to me, Tad, and this is huge. I got to admit, we talk about a day of survival in the Catskills. How about a month of survival? So, hiker found alive after a month of being alone in the wilderness. Officials said that he only maybe had a day left. So, Washington, North Cascades National Park, July 31st. That's a very rugged area. I got to admit, higher peaks area. He said in a statement obtained by People magazines, by the People, that deputies were notified by park staff on August 3rd. This is a little well dated. Sorry about that. An abandoned vehicle at Hannigan Pass Trailhead and a dog found 8 miles on the trail near the Chili Rock Witherer. The dog belonged to Robert Shuck, who was last seen on July 31st area by hikers. Now, according to the police, the hikers said that Shuck didn't have an overnight supplies on him. So once again, that brings 30 days overnight supplies. Yeah. Deputies arrived to inspect the vehicle. They found windows rolled down and Shuck's wallet and dashboard, which is freaking. That's a little startling.
Well, what does it tell you that the windows were rolled down and his wallet is on the dashboard?
Rob me?
Well, it says rob me on the one hand. I didn't check out the surroundings and how remote or not remote this place is, but I get the sense that if you pull into a trailhead or somewhere to start a hike and you leave your windows down and your wallet on the dashboard, number one, you've got to be in a pretty remote or not frequently visited area, because you would not leave your wallet on the dashboard, right?
Yeah.
You would have your windows rolled up and your wallet hidden someplace, not in plain sight. Number one.
I have it in my backpack, so.
Really? You carry your wallet in your backpack?
I do. My backpack and my keys.
I don't bring any of that stuff with me, but I won't say where I keep my stuff because I basically drive around in a tent with 4 wheels on it.
Yes, that's true.
Right? So the second thing I infer from this is he wasn't planning on being in the woods very long. He left his windows down. What did he stop there to do? Maybe to run out and take a couple photos, maybe a quick power hike, power run. But this is not, he has no overnight provisions or gear. His windows are down. The wallet is on the dashboard. This sounds like a guy who's going to be in the woods for a very, very brief period of time.
Correct.
Okay.
And looking upon the maps, man, this is not an area that you would want to be. This is above tree line, all shit.
Yeah. So what is he like stopping for a sunset? Is he checking out the sunset? Is he going up, to a viewpoint? Is he doing something quick? Interesting.
8 miles is not quick.
Well, but did this spiral into something else? Did something else happen? Because the interesting part of this is there's no, even though he's found and he's in the hospital and there's all this reporting, they don't tell us what it is that happened to him such that he could not get back to his car. Did he fall? Did he injure himself? What is it that happened? Was he dragged away by Bigfoot? We just don't know from this story. Yeah. But it takes them 30 days to find him.
But yeah, helicopters, no clues, additional ground and air searches. Then on August 30th, National Park Rangers alerted WCSO deputies that Shock had been found alive in the Chilliwack Basin. So an interview published on September 1st, Shock's mother, Jan Thompson, said her son, 39, was recovering at a hospital. She said, he's in a lot of pain and isn't speaking very well, but he's coherent and seemed pretty high spirits. I didn't push him too much. Now, the Humane Society contacted her on August 1st because a forest ranger found Shock's dog, Freddie, on the trail. So and then 26 days later, they found him. Yeah, it looks like a lot of searches went around. They had disbelief. Facebook folks said that details were talking about the discovery. He was found but not well, and it just goes spiraling from there. And 30 days.
It says he didn't move for the last 2 weeks. Did you see that? Right.
Exactly. It's stuck in the exact spot for the past 2 weeks, and based on the condition that he's found in, there is no reason for the crew to question it.
Yeah, and they didn't think he'd live another day. Right?
Yeah.
So
North Carolina.
Let me ask you this. This is the curveball. Ready? Are you ready? Do you think it's a good or bad thing that his dog wasn't with him?
I think that's a good thing that the freaking dog could survive, but the dog could find his way out, but the guy couldn't. What's going on?
Well, I'm thinking that if you're lying there, right, you have no food, you have nothing to eat, and your dog is still around you, and you're really, really hungry. Do you know where I'm going, Stosh?
No.
Are you gonna eat the dog?
Never.
Never? Yeah. Right?
No.
Even if it gets really, really bad, you're down to your final day, you know you need to eat something. It's either eat the dog or die.
That's regret for the rest of my life. You got to admit.
Yeah.
No, you're not going to admit that? You're going to eat the dog.
No, I wouldn't eat the pet, but I will say I did read that book. I think I mentioned it at 20 shows ago about this guy in 1849 going across Death Valley, and they literally ate everything they brought with them, all of the oxen, animals, everything else, because they had no maps. They didn't realize what they were getting into, and there was no food, no water. It's a really epic story. But nonetheless, here's this guy. I look at it, it's like, geez, maybe it's a good thing that the dog ran off. Maybe he went after the dog. So
yeah.
the other thing I point. Well, okay, go ahead.
I just don't understand the windows down and the wallet on this dashboard.
Yeah, that's bizarre. They don't say whether
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, I mean, was money taken out of the wallet, credit cards taken out? They don't tell us whether it was or wasn't, but it's just very bizarre that he left his car with the windows down and the wallet on the dash. Now, I functionally, my doors might as well be open because you can't lock them. I have a soft top on my Jeep. It's easy to get access to it, but I don't leave my wallet on my dash, right? With like a neon sign that says, wallet here. I mean, that was weird. And the next weird thing that I see is after this guy's found, he's in the hospital. His mother doesn't go out to see him. Right? What? Did you see that? And there was that one comment, and there was a bunch of comments in there that the story says that mom's not going out to see her son. And then there's this comment by Heather where Heather says, she's giving her son time to recover before she visits. Are you kidding me? As a mother, I'm pretty sure I would be there immediately after finding him. What do you think? What do you think? Was it okay for mom to not rush out to see her son? Or
I
should she
gotta
have
admit,
just,
that's pretty fucked up.
isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine something like that happening to one of my kids.
You know, your daughter is out there in the wilderness like this. You know,
Yeah.
Ted, I looked up where this location is, and Northern Cascades is a remote as heck.
Oh, that's
Like,
right. Yeah. She was just there a few weeks ago in the
yeah,
Northern
right. So
Cascades.
it's almost
Yeah,
like the BC, like Canada area where it's the
correct.
Canadian Rockies.
Yeah, it's immensely beautiful up there and remote. And wow, I hope my kid
Did
didn't
she
leave her
leave her
wallet.
freaking wallet on the
Well,
dashboard and stuff?
her wallet, my credit card.
Send her a message right now. Be like, do you leave your wallet on the dashboard and your windows down when you go hiking in the North Cascades? Please tell me why you do this shit.
She probably does.
Like, I know
Yeah.
there have been problems up in New Hampshire where people have been breaking in,
Mm-hmm.
Adirondacks, breaking into your cars and stuff, and they have signs saying, there's nothing in here, don't fricking break in. They still break in, but there's nothing in there. But leaving your windows down, your wallet on the dashboard is kind of like saying, like, I'm giving up my identity. I'm going out to live alone.
Are you
But you don't
suggesting?
have,
Are you suggesting he didn't want to be found?
well, if you didn't want to be found, you'd have shit to survive. Like this guy didn't have stuff to survive. I would have a tent. I would have at
Well,
least something
I'm
to
one-
make food.
I'm wondering if he was just going out there to die.
That's true. That's, you know, and that's what I think a lot of these, you know, times when people look to these areas of like seclusion and stuff like this, that they are going out to either get healed, like we've talked about before, you know, like, hey, I'm going to spend 10 days on the trail without food. Let me go in the Colorado wilderness. Or they're going to go up in the Northern Cascades and leave their freaking wallet on the dashboard, their windows open. What the hell?
Yeah, it's just a
Like,
crazy story.
that-
And then the icing on the cake of weirdness is mom doesn't go out to see him.
Yeah, right. Like this has got to be a horrible. Like, okay, we got to follow up on this. We got to keep on this situation
Yeah,
because
we need to put our team on it to keep following this story as it
we'll put the
develops.
CWC on that. Well, we get the Rangers to do it. They love doing overtime, so we'll get them on it. So that's just, I just find that one of the most bizarre situations that I've ever heard is that you leave your wallet on the dash with the windows rolled down. You know,
Mhm.
Jessica and I have been talking about going to this place in British Columbia called the Bugaboos. You get to hike up this 8-mile trail and you're at a hut that overlooks one of the most pristine areas, glacier climbing areas, and you have to put chicken wire around your car. And then you have to roll your windows down a little bit so it doesn't get too hot, so the marmots don't want to go in there to get warm. Now that I find weird. I'm just like, okay, that's weird, but I understand. Rolling your window down with no chicken wire and having your wallet on the front dashboard is a little odd.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. And just crazy incidents. I know this was a while ago, but you know, I just happened that Ted brought this to my attention, and I thought it was a great kind of incident to talk about because it does not happen over here, especially in the Catskills. So very odd.
Except in the Biscuit Brook area, where you could be stranded overnight.
Yeah, but 83-year-olds find their way out compared to a 39-year-old that just sits there and stays for 2 weeks. Interesting. So once again, thank you to the monthly supporters, Darren White. Thank you for John Saltowski, Tim C, Betsy A, Denise, Vanessa, Joseph, Jim C, and Michael. Thank you guys very much for supporting the show. Really appreciate it. I'm flabbergasted. Once again, also thank you to the sponsor of the show, Outdoor Chronicles Photography. Capture your love story against breathtaking backdrops with Outdoor Chronicles Photography. Molly specializes in adventure couple photography, and she'll immortalize your moments amidst stunning landscapes of the Catskills, Adirondacks, and White Mountains. She'll craft timeless images that reflect your unique bond with nature's grandeur. Embark on your unforgettable photographic journey with Outdoor Chronicles Photography. Don't hesitate to get a hold of Molly on all platforms. Also, discover the wilderness with Trailbound Project. Our expert-led hiking and backpacking education programs offer unparalleled outdoor experiences. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned adventurer, join us to learn essential skills, exploring stunning trails, and connect with nature. Start your journey today with Trailbound Project and unlock the wonders of the great outdoors. So, mentions coffee. So I want to give a mention about Betsy Anderson. So she is a supporter of the show. She did her completion of her through hike through the Escarpment Trail. Now she had a difficult time on her first time. She told me all about it. It was a fantastic story. We're going to get her on the show about this because she had a leg injury and stuff. She went through another summit, which did an amazing job. And now her second time, she did a total through hike of it, and she had a fantastic time. Just want to congratulate you, Betsy, on your escarpment through hike. Amazing experience. I got to admit, Escarpment Trail is unlike the other. It brings you to a total different wilderness of just through hikes, and it kind of catches you with through hikes. I got to admit. You done it, Tad?
I have not done the escarpment as a through hike, but I see how it would be appealing to do, not just as a through hike challenge, but just as a really interesting and unique area of the Catskills. You go through so many different forests, a lot of different geological features and rock formations. You get some really, really great Catskill views. So
let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, I would be up for it.
Would you trust me?
No, I wouldn't trust you. I would trust the 83-year-old who was able to survive overnight on fur.
Outrageous. All right. So also Pink Pony A18, Tracy Rankin also had the most scramblicious morning in the gunks. Perfect weather hit the labyrinth. No people, no bugs, wet rocks. 6+ miles of fun, including carriage roads back. So, Ted, you're familiar with the gunks. Have you ever been to this place?
Yeah, my daughter and I did the labyrinth one time, and it's worth doing one time, maybe more. You do or should, you're supposed to buy a day pass. I think last time I checked, it was like $30 to hike the Mohonk area of the gunks, and it's really worth it. I mean, they do spend a lot of money on trail maintenance, trail marking. It's just a fascinating area to go visit. And like I said, my daughter and I did it once. It's a very famous hike to do in the gunks. There's a lot of other hikes like it, though. Maybe not as big or as tight as the labyrinth, but
or expensive.
Yeah, and the other areas, yeah, you can go through the Mohonk Preserve, where I think a day pass is $10 or $15, or you buy a season pass. But my daughter, I think, has a hiking route through the gunks where you hit 8 of these. They're not technical rock scrambles, but they're pretty challenging. I know on some of them she took me on, I was kind of like, whoa.
She's a beast.
Sketchy. Yeah. So
what's her name again?
Her name is Sophronia.
Sophronia. Wow, yeah. Dude, surprise, Ted. Wow, that's a beautiful name.
It is. It's a family name. She's named after Sophronia Missouri Neff.
Okay.
And yeah,
does she have an Instagram?
Yeah, she does. I'll hit you up with it.
Please, that would be awesome. I want to follow her stories. She hasn't followed. Why hasn't she followed me yet? That's disappointing.
Well, that's she's not into heavy metal, so that's yeah. But what do you know about heavy metal? So
I mean, we'll chat about that in a second. Yeah. So once again, the labyrinth, Mohonk, don't they get enough money from the freaking rates that they charge at the hotel?
These places have to be inherently expensive to operate. Just the cost of maintaining that facility, maintaining these trails, it just has to eat money up. But Mohonk Preserve, or the Mohawk Mountain House, is it's what these grand Catskill resorts used to be. The Mountain House still is. I mean, with these hiking trails around at the lake, it's a pretty neat place. Yeah. We're lucky to still have it.
I got to get down there. I got to get down there with you. Maybe one day I'll show up at your door at like 6 a.m. and just be like, I don't even know where you live. I'll just knock on your door.
All right, I'll make sure we have. What do you to charge your car? I'll have to have like a couple cables or something. That way, I don't have to deal with you for like a couple days. So while your car charges,
couple days. So Pink Pony once again, 818 on Instagram said a beautiful morning hike up Mount Taurus, Bull Hill, and the Coors Estate ruins. They have added benches and look out to Storm King, which I know is a very popular area. Of course, they are full of graffiti, which I know this of, which is really disappointing. They have also covered openings in the front of the house paintings, and not sure how she feels about that. Saw minimal humans, the couple toads, and a black serpent. So black serpent, so that's pretty cool. So I'm Ted. I know you're familiar with this area.
Yeah, I've never hiked over there though.
Okay, well then you shouldn't say yeah.
Yeah, well, I know where it is. I mean, the general area, and I know the kind of know the terrain, but no, I haven't. I don't. She says she didn't see anybody. I haven't had that experience when I hike over in that area. I see too many people. It just kind of kills the outdoor vibe for me.
So the black serpent, should we get a hold of what's his name for the snake, or is that just a normal snake down there?
Yeah, I don't think it would excite him.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's good. So also we were tagged by Phoenicia Farmers Market. They went on the Tambark Loop, which is a perfect hike to do in tandem for the farmers market, situated in the field just below the stunning view, awaiting your victorious descent to greet you with fresh fruits, veggies, and coffees, and donuts, chips and salsa, cookies and tamales, and much more. So definitely going to look into this to see the Phoenicia Farmers Market. If I'm going to do the Tambark Loop, I will definitely show up there to get some freaking chips and salsa. God damn.
Yeah, I have to do that as part of the All Trails. It's one of the little trails I need to
close out that you have, right? You got very minimal.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I'm slowly, checking them off the list.
I don't know. I gotta do a lot, but I might be going up Slide next week just to get the view of the stunning colors that we're going to have maybe within the next week or so.
Yeah, I don't know if Slide's the best place to do it, or are you thinking of doing it what I've come to call Pirates Lookout? That lookout you've turned me on to.
Pirates?
I'll also say I'll give you the coordinates for that one Danny Davis and I found.
On Slide?
Yeah, it'll blow your hiking socks off.
It's over towards the.
I'm not gonna tell you what it's over towards.
The northern part of Slide, correct?
I'm
like
right now. Right now, I'm drawing a blank on north, south, east, west. I'm not giving up directions, but it's
Jim called my spot Russon's Roost.
Russon's Roost, really? Yeah. I like Pirates Lookout because they call that ridge Pirates Ridge.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
We'll call it Pirates.
Also say fans it's like Spruce Fern or Spruce Grove Hell to get there. Yeah. I mean, even Danny was like a little, because he had never been to that one lookout before, and he was kind of questioning the wisdom of going over there. And he's like the bushwhack, and he's the bushwhack king of Slide Mountain and the Burroughs Range. And it was like, whoa. I know my first time over there, I was cursing you.
So when you're going up Slide Mountain, you remember this one part of Slide Mountain that's almost open that looks like a whole massive area of blowdown happened. And there's new growth there. There's new pines. That's what I figure this area is going down to the Pirates Lookout. Is once you're up to near the top of Slide Mountain, there's this one area that opens up. It doesn't have a view, but you can see just an open area that there was just like there had to be a crazy event that blew all these trees down. This is what it felt like when I bushwhacked over to that area.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's like. I mean, you have the small, juvenile spruce trees that are anywhere from ankle biters to, up to your shoulders. But the problem is when they're that small, they're really tight together because they're all still struggling, for that area and that sunlight. So they're just really close together. It's not until they're more mature that they start to weed out and the first time I went through there, it was tough because of the wet snow, and
Oh yeah.
and it was the snow was on the trees and it's dropping on you, and you're trying to get to this lookout because Stosh told you it's worth getting over there, and you're like,
It is. It
yeah.
offers you one of the views that you never see in the Catskills.
Yeah, it's pretty cool when you get there, and then so I wanted to share it with Danny Davis and Zach when we were out whacking around one day, and we eventually got there, but I know Danny was in the back cursing. He didn't curse out loud, but when you turned back quickly, you could see it on his face that it was just like tattooed all over his face, curse words, so
that's accomplishment.
And then we had the long bushwhack down. It was like kind of like the never ending day, but
you went down the Neversink, right?
Yeah, we went down again, Pirates Ridge. We hit this like massive grove of hemlocks, which always makes it worthwhile. And then you get into like a low drainage area in the Shanty Brook, Deer Shanty Brook. That's what I think it's called. Yeah. That you go through there, and then you make your way over to the East Branch, and then down the trail.
Deer Shanty, that involves the Wildcats, right?
Yeah, we didn't know. So we didn't get over to the Wildcats.
But it involves them, though.
Yeah. Everything in the Catskills generally involves Wildcats, one way or the other.
But the Wildcat Range, yeah.
But, so have you ever hiked over in the Wildcat Range, the Black Forest?
Yeah.
You've been to the Black Forest?
Yes.
Worth it?
I think depends on where you're starting from.
Well, I think once you get to the Black Forest and you can just roam around it, once you get there, it's worth being there. It's how you get there, whether you cross the West Branch to get there or come in following the edge of the Frost Valley property to get there. I found when I was back there, a 10-foot plus waterfall.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's rare.
Oh yeah, it was pretty cool.
No, anyway.
All right,
we go on our tangents.
Enough bragging and boasting about Catskill hiking. Who wants?
We could
to hear
probably
that?
do this all day long. Let's do this.
Could be. Let's crack open a few more cold ones.
Well. So yeah, cold ones. Ted, I saw you. You kind of waved or sing something like almost like a football just going across the kickoff.
Just doing like a little commercial here.
Yeah.
So I'm drinking a Saranac Pale Ale. It's not some sexy craft brewing company. It's the Matt Brewing Company of Utica, New York, which is more widely known as being the brewers of Stosh. Do you know what they brew? Pay attention, Stosh.
Beer?
Beer. What Matt Brewing, 4 Generations Brewing Utica Club. That's the beer they make.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Utica Club.
Yeah. Nobody really likes Utica Club, but their Saranac Pale Ale is not too bad.
No. Not bad at all.
So, I'm not an IPA person. I kind of like the ambers and darks, and the Saranac Pale Ale is a light version of a pale ale. Not light in calories, just light in flavor spectrum.
Correct. So tonight, I am having a 8 Wasting Time, a Vermont hard cider crafted beer. So this was made in Virginia's, I think that's how you say it, Vermont. So it is called a Peaches and Cream.
Stosh is reading it using your phone to magnify what's on the can, or is your vision just that blurry?
No.
Can't hold the can straight anymore.
They have whole poetry on the back of this. So
really?
It looks like a whole freaking song inspired by Greg Allman. I'm not gonna. It says ain't wasting time. I ain't wasting my time on this poetry thing, but it's pretty decent. It's not as good as the other stuff I had. I had a lot of hard cider in Vermont when I was up there, and they have some good shit. Yeah. Stone Mountain cider, Down East cider. And they have a place that you can mix and match of like different ciders. So I would choose one of this, and I bought at least 4 packs of cider, so 16 hard ciders.
So when you say mix and match, like mix and match, A 6-pack?
Yep, or a 4-pack.
Okay. Cool.
It was phenomenal. It was pretty cool. So yeah, ain't wasting time. Tag that in here. So previous hikes, Ted, we'll talk about your previous hikes because I had a lot.
Oh, so you want to hit mine?
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2 weekends ago, I did 3 stops at 3 different places to click off a multitude of trails towards that All Trails Challenge, and they were interesting. Of those, that was the most interesting. I'm going to have to say it goes to German Hollow, where it's just was a straight up and down for me, climbing over 1,200 vertical feet, I think in like a mile 0.4. But it was fairly interesting, at least the first half. But that is not the best hike I've done in the last 2 weeks. Do you want to hear about the best hike I did in the last 2 weeks?
Absolutely.
Which also happens to be the shortest hike I did in the last 2 weeks. And you might not even call it a hike. So I was setting out to figure out which trails on this all trails list that I had not yet finished. And I discovered there was a couple over in the Mongap Pond area, the Mongap campground area, that I didn't even realize were on the list. So I Googled them, and I discovered that the very day that I was going to hike these trails, the Catskill trail crew was going to be there doing trail maintenance. So could you think of a thing more uncool than showing up to hike these trails, hiking by the trail crew, right? While they're out there doing their thing, and you just kind of saunter by because you're doing this trail challenge. So I decided I couldn't do that, and that I had to sign up to do trail work. And I did. I signed up. I got an acknowledgement email back. The next morning at 8:30, I showed up at the parking lot, and I met these people who were part of the trail crew. They all, except myself, were repeat offenders. I was a first timer. Yeah. And of course, the trail crew leader is one Matt Smith, right, who is a former guest on the show, who I remember when he was on because he said his post-hike brew and bite was a chocolate milkshake and beef chili from Stewart's, right? Yeah. Such an unlikely combination. So I busted his chops a little bit about that before we set off. And he said that he's changed his culinary preferences at Stewart's, and he's moved on to the Stewart's hamburger. I didn't know they made burgers at Stewart's, but apparently they do, and Matt Smith likes them. So nonetheless, we set off to do a few miles, I think it was just under 4 miles of trail maintenance around Flick Pond area. And let me tell you, it was a great experience. Such a cool group of people to hang out with. Everybody was really cool and casual. There was just a great vibe amongst all of us. And, I have to say, it's a lot of fun. I think it's the most fun I've had on a hike this year, other than hiking with my daughter and doing a couple bizarre bushwhacks with Danny Davis. But other than that, I thought this was just a wonderful experience, and I'm thoroughly convinced that everybody needs to get out there with the Catskill Trail crew and, grab the lopers, if you will, and cut some branches, cut some saplings, just clean up some trails. It's a really, really enjoyable time. You get some really good swag. You start off, you get some patches, decals, then you get a patch the second time you show. That day, some of the people that were there's only 6 of us. 2 of them got T-shirts, really cool T-shirts. Oh, wow. Yeah. And, the people that were there plan on coming back, and they do come back because, like I said, Matt is very, very chill, and it's just a fun, gratifying experience. So now let me tell you, other than the pure joy of cutting saplings and branches along the trail, one of the funnier things that day is obviously that morning, Matt, before we set out, Matt knew my name. And I said, "Oh yeah, I remember you from the podcast and the milkshake and the chili," which I thought was really, really funny and bizarre. So we go through the rest of the day, and he calls me by my name, and others are calling me by my name. And then we get done with the end of the day, and we're hanging out in the parking lot. And he is talking about a hiking trip that he's planning in a few weeks to go for look for a certain airplane wreck in a certain area of the Catskills that nobody apparently has found before, and he's hooking up with a bunch of people to find it. And I say, "Oh, is Joe and Stosh coming?" And he says, "Well, Joe's coming, but Stosh isn't coming." And then he goes on and talks about all Stosh does these days is this podcast. and so that one of the other fellows starts asking him about the podcast. "What do you mean about the podcast about the Catskills?" And they're talking about it. And then Matt says that recently Stosh has gotten a co-host, and the show is, and I'm not making this up, Stosh. He says the show has gotten a lot better. He says he has this co-host, and as he starts to say the name of the co-host, he stops. He looks at me, and he says, "Are you Tad from the podcast?" And I'm like, how many Tads do you think there are that hike in the Catskills? I mean, is it really, So I said, "Just wait. Yes, I am. Just wait. I'm going to go in the Jeep. I'm going to get the Sharpie. I'll start signing autographs now." So it was really funny how the Catskill Trail crew spent the whole day cutting things and clipping things and snipping and, cleaning the trails with me. And then at the end of the day, they're like, "Oh, you're the guy from the podcast." So
Nice.
I think I converted some more people to listeners. We'll see.
Hopefully.
If we go from 8 to 14, that would be cool. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was funny that at the end of the day I was outed as I call it the guest in residence, but whatever. So, all right. So that's my
congratulations, dude.
Yeah.
That's awesome for volunteering. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say again, get out there and do it. It's really cool. It's just a lot of fun. And, I did, Danny Davis and I did it on the Burroughs Range earlier this year. I helped him out because that's his section. And I didn't sign up for anything else. But if you want to go out there and give back to the hiking community, hook up with Matt, the Catskill Trail crew. It's really, really chill. It's remarkably a really good and fun time. And you drive away from your hiking experience. It's not like you hiked the Escarpment Trail or did the Catskill 9. You didn't do some epic thing in the Catskill like that in terms of miles and elevation, but you just have this really, really good feeling about doing what you did that day. So I'm going to try to get out there at least once a season and do this with them and eventually earn my t-shirt. So,
same.
But the next time they're going to know who I am. But, oh well.
They're not going to give it to you.
Yeah. So, all right. Now that's, I'm out of the spotlight here. Now you can take it away with your week up in Vermont.
Oh, dude. What a fantastic time. So my wife and I went up to Vermont to celebrate our 12th anniversary. And we rented this tiny house up in a place called Hyde Park, which is just above Mount Mansfield, kind of like about Stowe, about 20 minutes north of Stowe. We're only an hour away from the border of Canada and United States. So we just, I had all intentions of doing absolutely nothing except for one hike. I was like, I wanted to do Mansfield, highest mountain in Vermont, one of the more challenging ones besides Camel Hump, above tree line. Above tree line is fantastic. But we arrived Saturday, and then Sunday, Jessica was just like, let's hike that one hike you talked about, Mount Elmore, that has a fire tower. And I was like, "Are you sure about that?" I'm like, it's supposed to rain a little bit. She's like, "Yeah, let's go." So We did. We went out and hiked it was a 3.7 mile hike up to a fire tower that it was really awkward because it's a nice flat area. It takes a right hand turn, it goes up a little bit of more hiking, and then it gets to some steep ascents to where there's ladders. There's it looks like little carved in areas of the rock. Like they must have put explosives in or something like that to make it kind of like steps. It was really odd. And then you get to the fire tower, which is not at the actual summit. It's actually a little bit kind of to the east of the summit. And I was just like, that's a little odd to have it not at the summit. But it was absolutely phenomenal day. We beat the rain. We could see the rain off to the kind of the west, hitting the higher peaks of Vermont. And we kind of celebrated our 12th anniversary there, which was very, very beautiful. She climbed up, I think it was 2 tiers of the fire tower and got a little paranoid and then ran back down. So we got a picture of her eyes wide open, just like, this is getting a little too crazy. But then we took pictures down at the tiny house that we had. We rented an amazing tiny house, and it was really cool, especially in the tiny house, because living in that kind of space, where like I took a picture of it and my arms went out to the wideness of the house. And then, I went outside. I showed you that picture, Tad. It was probably like, 3 times the size of my arm. So it was what, 24 feet?
Wide? Yeah.
I would length.
Yeah,
So that's
length,
wide.
yeah.
Wide is probably like 7-8 feet.
Yeah. To me, it struck me as something that you could put on a trailer and drive down the road.
It's
Right.
half of a trailer. Yeah.
Yeah. That these things are assembled off site. They're brought in on a trailer and they're set up there. It's like little pod houses. So, but it might surprise you to know that when I was younger, much younger, I would spend my summers living on a boat that was smaller than that. So I get the idea of the confinement, but it looked like a cool place with a great view.
Oh yeah. It was located in the middle of everything. And then the next day, so we did Mount Elmore, which was only around, I think it was like 3,100 feet. The next day, I set out to do Mount Mansfield, which is the highest peak in Vermont, which is, I think, is around 4,300 feet. And I approached it from the western area, which was Sunset Ridge, which you get a certain amount, and then to an elevation area, and you're above tree line the whole rest of the time. When I was driving in, I look over and I see some mountains. I'm like, oh, cool. They're not in the clouds. And then all of a sudden, Mount Mansfield comes into perspective and it's in the clouds. I'm like, all right. So maybe, it's 7:30. Maybe it'll clear up by 8:30 when I arrive in there. And it didn't. Once I got higher and higher, the clouds were still there. It was totally worth it. The only crazy thing is that I hit some awesome winds at the top. 50 to 60 mile an hour gust, constant 20 to 30 mile an hour winds. That's my kind of stuff. I was ready for anything. I had my puffy jacket in there. I had my micro spikes in there. Wow. First aid kit. I guarantee my thing was over 30 pounds, my pack.
Awesome. So when you're up there in that wind, you're wearing like a hard shell jacket?
Hard shell. Yep. I had only a hard shell, a long sleeve moisture wicking shirt, and a t-shirt, moisture wicking shirt.
And so what did you have on your legs? Did you have a set of hard shell pants on, or just a regular pair of hiking pants, or something else?
Like just regular hiking moisture wicking pants.
Okay.
It got a little chilly. I had to put gloves on and my winter hat, but I stayed up at the summit for like 45 minutes trying to get a view, and I didn't really get much. So it was, but there's this one spot between Mansfield and it's called West Mansfield that is just kind of like a tunnel of air, and it was absolutely fantastic. I took a video of it. I posted it on Instagram and Facebook, and it just felt like a whole nother world of just getting blown apart by the winds. And that's my kind of stuff. I love the views. I wanted to go up there for the views, but I got that freaking massive wind and it blew my mind away.
You got the experience, right?
Oh yeah, it was great. I met 2 other hikers up there, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And they have
Awesome.
they have the amazing long trail up there, which I plan on to think of do section hiking of the long trail up there.
Mm-hmm.
So 272 miles going from all the way to the base of Vermont up to Canada.
And so you get up there, you're on the top of Mount Mansfield, highest mountain in Vermont. It's great weather conditions for you. It's got a little bite to it. Some it's blowing hard. Did you have like a beverage on top? Did you have like hot cocoa, coffee, tea, a hard cider?
Have that with 20 mile per hour winds, man.
Well, you could have brought a thermos or something,
I could have. I didn't think about that. I was excited to be, to tag another one of those Northeast 67.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I did it in a considerable amount of time. And I enjoy that weather experience of, not everybody gets 100% views all the time. And I got that and I cherished it. And, there was another guy I met that was doing like 2 overnighters, and he was at the same experience as me. And he was just like, this is phenomenal. I love the wind. I love the air flow. And it was just, I was blown away. I had a great time.
Cool. So how did that above tree line experience on Mount Mansfield compare to your recent experience in the Whites being above tree line?
That's a good question, because
all my questions are good or better. Okay.
True.
You can agree on that. Okay. So how did Mount Mansfield above tree line compare to above tree line in the Whites?
So the Whites have those massive cairns, like, the size 6 feet tall. I did not see any one of those above tree line in Mount Mansfield.
And is that because there's just less ridge walking from one mountaintop to the other in the Green Mountains, or they don't have? My sense is in the Whites you have a really, really robust and long-standing hiking club that manages that terrain. And is it lacking in the Greens, or you just don't need something like that to do like an up and down on Mount Mansfield?
That's a very good question, because I know for a fact that area has a very good search and rescue team that has very big situations. Yeah. So I'm very curious about that, because I was noticing that when I went up, there was blue markers showing me the way, which I kind of understood, and I kind of checked my position every time, but I didn't notice any cairns, and I was just like, this at times could be problematic, during the winter seasons, but I don't know how many people go up there. I know it's probably minimal compared to Mount Washington and Lafayette and stuff like that.
So how much distance did you cover above tree line, where you would need something like a cairn to help you out on a day of poor visibility?
So when I went up the Sunset Ridge area, it was probably around, I'm pretty sure, like 1.5 miles, 2 miles.
Yeah. So that's
above tree line.
On a day when it's really blowing, you have basically whiteout conditions. Having a hiking buddy and being able to string rope from one cairn to the other would be useful. Yeah. But they don't have them there. Huh.
Nope. It was pretty crazy, because I could see probably good 50, 60 feet ahead. So that was good. I could tell where I was going and such.
Yeah. On that day, you could. But back in my skiing days, I've skied in New Hampshire, where seeing 15 feet in front of you was not possible. I mean, it was just insane. I mean, it was blowing 70 miles an hour. You're on a ski area, slope. There's snow up there. There's loose snow, and when those gusts come along, you can't see. The only thing is which way is downhill, because you're on skis and they're pulling you downhill, right? You feel that.
Yeah.
But at times the wind was so strong you'd be almost at a dead standstill.
Wow. Did you have a good time though?
Did I? Yeah. I mean, here I am. I'm closing in on age 62, and I used to ski in Vermont when I didn't even have a driver's license, and I still remember all of those epically cold days at Stowe Mountain and Sugar Bush, Mad River Glen. Some of
So
those.
you've been on Mansfield. So you've been on the
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
It was a
Smuggler's
fantastic
Notch.
time. Yep,
Yeah.
that's right across the street.
Yeah. But every time I've been there, I've had skis on my feet, so I haven't hiked them.
So let's go.
All right,
We'll rent
let's
the
do it.
tiny house
Do it.
together, and
Let's wrap this up and let's
sleep
move
in the
up there
loft
now.
together.
All right, Stosh.
The next thing though, I had a really quick hike the next day. So I did 3 straight days of hiking up of what they call Stowe's Pinnacle. Very easy, probably a 3-mile hike. Goes up to the top of the peak that does a 360 look of the Green Mountains. Cool thing I will say about that is I saw F-35 fighter jets flying over.
Yeah.
And I thought it was fantastic. I was yelling at everybody. I'm like, F-35 fighter jets, they're $2 billion worth of planes. And then everybody was looking at me like I was like, okay, what's your point? So funny thing is,
all the time.
they do.
Yeah.
I found out that they're doing a petition to get rid of them, to have them stop flying out of Bennington Airport over in Vermont.
Yeah.
It was hilarious.
Back in my skiing days, I remember being up there, and part of their training is I'm going to call it dogfights. I don't know what it really is, but they're training one fighter jet chasing another, and they're literally, they're turned 90 degrees, So, and they're just flying at whatever Mach speed it is, just, snaking through the mountains like that. It's really an incredible sight. And obviously, if you're out there hiking and, trying to get into the solitude of nature, and then these jet powered fighter planes go flying by, and then they come back again, because that's what they're doing. They're just chasing one another.
Wow.
Could kill the vibe.
I thought it was phenomenal. I was blown away, because we don't see that in the Catskills. I heard, in New Hampshire, they see those big Boeings and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But these F-35s they flew over at an insane high altitude and a high speed that I barely caught them on camera. And I was blown away. Oh yeah. They look like little, like flies.
I've been skiing at Killington on Bear Mountain, a run called Outer Limits, which has a chairlift going up to one side of it. And sometimes you swear if your ski pole was long enough, you could reach out and touch one of these planes. I mean, that's an exaggeration, obviously, but the planes are literally, they're not that high up and they're not that far out, because part of the thing is that they're doing is they're trying to fly through at low elevation, and to dodge, shake the other plane off of their tail. Now, this was back in the late 80s, early 90s, and maybe
Maverick days, Top Gun.
Yeah, right. And maybe since then, they've been told not to get that low to the ground. I'm not sure. I do know, though, that they do a lot of this out west in the desert out west where there's nobody around. But that's just our armed services preparing, they're out there doing their thing.
It was an amazing experience. And, if you go up to Vermont, I'd suggest you go up to the Stowe area. Awesome food, awesome cider, awesome, just everything, hikes everywhere galore for not just, Tad and I, but for everybody that could enjoy it and have a good time. That Stowe's Pinnacle was for everybody, and it offered above tree line experience for 360-degree views.
Yeah, that's cool. My remembrance of the difference between New Hampshire and Vermont was that Vermont just had this sense of being more remote, more secluded, and less developed than New Hampshire.
Yep.
But again, I haven't been up there for quite a while, but back in the 80s and 90s, I spent a lot of time up there.
Well, Tad, looks like I'm your second coming to Vermont, New Hampshire. Let's go.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Maybe what we need to do to make this work, what we need to do is we need to get our wives to hook up, right? To get
Oh God,
the two,
yeah.
to get the two of them and to sync with something. And here's the solution, Stosh. This is how it'll work. We'll get our wives together and we'll let them take your credit card to go shopping,
No,
and then you and I can go hike.
not possible.
I think that's a good plan.
Not possible. All right. So let's go over once again, awesome times, Ted. Thank you for volunteering. Really appreciate it. That's great.
Again, folks, Catskill Trail Crew, it is a lot of fun.
Yeah. And, speaking of that, definitely volunteer opportunities, 3,500 Club, their cats, what's it called? Good Lord, the trailhead stewards are closing down for the year. The Catskill Trail Crew is still looking for volunteers all the time. Catskill Mountains Club, Visitors Center, Jolly Rover Trail Club, Broadway Mountain Fire Tower, New York, New Jersey Trail Conference is looking for volunteers. We're going to get into them in a little bit. I have a plan for that. So also, if you want stickers, Camp Catskill told me they're out of stickers, so I'm going to try to get them some more stickers, but email me. So, Tad, let's do a quick weather forecast. So this Friday looks like it's going to be an absolute, it's been an absolute stunning 2 weeks, and it looks like it's going to be great this weekend.
Fantastic weather out there.
Yeah, Friday, a high of 57, a low of 46, minimal winds, maybe like 15 degrees. And this is coming from Twin Mountain on the Devil's Path. So Saturday, minimal rain, maybe some clouds, a high of 55, a low of 46 again. And Sunday, a little bit cloudy, a little bit of rain showers, high of 52, a low of 46 again. Absolutely phenomenal. Get out there and hit some peaks and have fun. Volunteer.
Yeah, and I suspect this weekend it's going to be a little more colorful out there, and next weekend, the weekend after this, you're probably going to be getting into a high percentage of fall foliage.
Peak is going to be happening soon.
Yeah, it's because I know when I was out there last weekend in the Western Cats with the Catskill Trail Crew, that you were starting to see some of those colors creeping in, and everything wasn't green. You were starting to see some yellows, some reds.
Yeah, it's getting there. Getting there. So let's get out. So last set of sponsors, and then we'll get on to the guests of the night. How about it?
Excellent.
All good.
Let's do it.
All right. So discover Camp Catskill in Tannersville, your ultimate hiking store. Find top quality gear, apparel, and accessories for all your outdoor adventures. Our expert staff is here to help every hiker, from beginner or seasoned pros. We also carry a variety of unique Catskill souvenirs and gifts. Visit us online at campcatskill.co or in their store to do your next journey. Adventure starts here at Camp Catskill. Also discover the beauty of the Catskills, Adirondacks, and Hudson Valley with scenic route guiding. Our expert guides ensure a safe, unforgettable hiking experience tailored to your skill level. From breathtaking vistas to hidden gems, or if you're just peak bagging, to simple day hikes, we'll lead you to the best spots and back. Book your adventure today and explore nature's wonders with scenic route guiding. Check them out on all social media platforms, and also, if you mention the podcast, get 10% off. Use the code word Mountain Lion. So also embark on a transformative journey with Another Summit. Another Summit is dedicated to serving veterans and first responders with free outdoor activities. Activities like walks in nature, paddling, hiking, or even backpacking. Join our supportive community to rejuvenate in nature's embrace. Experience camaraderie, adventure, and healing at no cost. Take your next step with Another Summit and ascend to new heights with resilience and joy. Apply today on anothersummit.org. All right, so let's get on to the guest of the night.
Let's go.
Tonight, Samatha from the Catskill Watershed Corporation joins us, and she's going to be talking about her organization that she works with and the organization that the Catskills protect the areas of the reservoirs and the several towns that are in the Catskill Watershed area. So, Samatha, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Are you sure about that? Yeah, you are. You're good. You're good. It's
We're
all
gonna make
about
it work.
Exactly. It's all for fun. We all do this for fun. So why don't you get a little background about yourself, and then we'll get into the CWC, the Catskill Watershed Corporation.
So my name is Samantha. I grew up here right in Arkville. I went to school at Margaretville Central School, went off to college, got a degree in communication studies, came back. I worked in a couple local restaurants. And then I saw a newspaper article looking for an administrative assistant at the Catskill Watershed Corporation back in 2017. I had an interview. I was hired. Here I am. And I moved around in a couple different positions trying to find the right fit. And I ended up where I am now as the communication and education manager. So I deal with our social media, our website updates, and the main part of my job is the education grants that we provide to schools in the West of Hudson watershed and the 5 boroughs of New York City. So I administer those grants and just kind of, attend their programs, field trips, whatever I can possibly do. And I look over the applications, their final reports, their financials, and they move on with their projects.
So you're basically the outreach of the CWC.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And social media and stuff like that plays a big role in today's society. So kudos to you, because that's tough to do.
Thank you. I mean, we're not into it as much as maybe some of the other organizations. We're trying to get a feel into some live feeds, videos, and that kind of thing. But it's hard because we're a small organization, but we do a lot of big things, and it's hard to keep track of all of them.
Yeah.
But as long as the staff keeps me updated, I can get out in the field and take photos, pictures, and get them up on our social media for everybody else to find out what we do.
Yeah. And that outreach is very important for, once again, your area is education, and we need education all around the Catskills for certain, different types of projects and stuff like that, whatever there is of Leave No Trace and different prospects of that. So it's always good. Social media is huge these days, as we all know. So now, with that being said, what is the Catskill Watershed Corporation?
So we are a locally based, locally staffed nonprofit organization. We have several different environmental protection programs, economic development programs, education. We have, including with our environmental protection programs, our biggest program is probably our septic repair and replacement program. That's what most people typically know us for when we're out at outreach events. They recognize the name associated with their septic system.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. But our main mission is to preserve and strengthen the region's economy, administer all of our programs, and be efficient with it.
Amazing. Now, with that, with how long you've been at this for 17 years, or since 2017?
7 years now.
How long has the watershed been around?
So that will push us into when the memorandum of agreement was signed, also known as the MOA, and that was signed in 1997.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah.
So do you now, I mean, this is really awkward with the septic systems and stuff like that. Like, this is within a certain parameter of the Catskills, correct?
Yes. So it's 5 counties. It's Delaware County, Ulster, Greene, Schoharie, and Sullivan counties. So
Wow.
The boundary line, it's not a straight line. DEP has a very nice map that you can type in a specific location and it'll drop a pin and it'll show you whether you're inside that line or outside. And if you're inside, you're eligible for our programs as long as you meet all of the requirements.
Wow.
And if you're outside, unfortunately, we can't help you.
And is what determines whether you're inside or outside of the line, whether or not the stormwater that flows off your property would flow into the New York City reservoir system.
Typically, yes.
Typically,
Yep.
you want to be inside the line.
That's a good thing, being inside
right.
the line, right?
Right.
Yes,
I got
you
it.
would want to be inside the line to take advantage of our programs, although some people, they don't want to be under watch of the city and have the city regulations.
So this is a big corporation involves the reservoirs, correct?
The Catskill Watershed Corporation itself is about 22 employees, I believe.
What's your annual budget, including all the grants that you administer?
I do not know our annual budget.
Is it in the millions of dollars?
Yes.
So just to ballpark it, is it north or south of 10 million?
Probably north.
Okay. And you said you were a nonprofit.
Yes.
But is the funding for your program, the CWC, from the city of New York or elsewhere?
Yes, it's from the city of New York.
And that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Yep. So they fund all of our programs here. Some, most of them all of them are on a contract, whether it's 5 years, 10 years. So they get like certain increments of money each year, each program, and they all differ. The Catskill Fund for the Future program, which is the CFF program under the economic development, that was a revolving fund of 59.7 million when CWC first started.
And what is it up to now?
Well, that was the total fund. So they invest it. I don't know what it's, invested as, but then we give to local businesses and then they pay them back with interest. So it kind of varies. I'm not sure what their total, but we've put out quite a bit of money to local businesses.
So I get it from what you've hit on so far. The CWC does both things like helping people with their septic system and keeping it in compliance with the regulations.
Yes.
As well as it has this revolving fund and presumably other funds and grant programs that help economic development within the city's watershed or the Catskill watershed.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And this all emanates out of this memorandum of agreement?
Yep. So when the memorandum of agreement started after several years of negotiations, each program had a certain amount that they started with, and it was only a few programs to start off. So it was a septic program that started at 13.6 million. And at that time, they were all 5-year contracts. There was an operating budget of 3.5 million. I had mentioned that the economic development CFF was 59.7 million. As well, our future stormwater was over 31 million. The public education program was 2 million. So that was just in the beginning. And over time, it's just been evolving and the programs are expanding. The programs are getting bigger. We're adding new programs. Some programs have been taken away. So the numbers vary from when everything first started, but it's definitely more than what it originally was.
Definitely with what's happened in the Catskills in the past, 5 to 10 years, it's definitely got to expand because, people are buying property, people are buying homes, people need to know what they need to do and stuff like that for the reservoir system and for the water system in the Catskills.
Yeah. And when COVID hit, we had such an influx of people moving up here. So their current septic systems in their second homes that they had, weekend homes, weren't able to take the capacity of somebody being here full time. So there were a lot more failures. So we saw a lot more people calling, a lot more numbers coming in. And of course, with that, everything got skyrocketed with prices for materials. So it all just balances out. But eventually, does it ever come to an end?
No,
it
doesn't. No,
it doesn't feel like, it's, with me saying something that with we traveling around the Catskills lately, it doesn't feel like it's slowing down. It feels like stuff is kind of steady pace of building around the Catskills. I just see it all over the place.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, Tad, are you saying the same thing when you travel?
Definitely in the Catskills and in the Hudson Valley. The real estate market has been exceptionally strong since COVID hit. It was strong leading up to COVID. and then it just kind of, escalated even more. It did kind of slow down a little bit when interest rates went up, but now interest rates are going to click back down, presumably, and we're expecting another push in the market. But Stosh, is your house on a septic or municipal sewer?
Municipal. It's with the city.
Yeah. So do you even know what a septic system is and how it works?
I do. I lived at a home in Otsego, New York with 414 people. So yes, I do know what a septic is.
Wow. Okay. So Samantha, why don't you just, before we get into all these programs, why don't you just educate us on, a quick flyover what a septic system is for those of our listeners who don't know, and then why it is that the city of New York is so concerned that septic systems in the watershed function properly.
So a septic system is, in short, basically all of your pipes in your house coming together to one pipe. To exit your house, it goes into a holding tank. Your solids will sink. Your liquids will leach out into a leach field and kind of dissipate as to groundwater from there, go through all the natural filtrations, and then into your local streams eventually, and then into the reservoirs. So that's why the city is so concerned about protecting the water and making sure that we bring these septic systems up to regulations, so there's not just sewage flowing out of your house into the little stream next to your house and then into the reservoir to go down to New York City.
Thanks.
That would be a catastrophe, wouldn't it? Right?
For them, yes.
Yeah. So when you gave that description, I thought of a septic system as a glorified cat hole.
Yeah, overexposed cat hole.
Yeah. So
it works.
So and
it works.
And so the city of New York is funding the Catskill Watershed Corporation for the purpose, in part, of making sure everyone's septic system is properly working and functioning. And when it isn't, does the Catskill Watershed Corporation just give money to people to upgrade their system or repair it, or these low interest loans or something else?
These are grants, but it's a 100% voluntary program. We can't force anybody to replace their septic system. Maybe if your neighbor calls and says that you have just straight sewage running onto your lawn, maybe they could contact the DEP, New York City Department of Environmental Protection. Maybe they could do something or contact the Department of Health, but us as our organization, we don't do that.
I mean, you're a nonprofit, so that's tough to kind of enforce that on people.
Yeah, so it's 100% up to the homeowner to contact us, for us to come out, do a site visit, evaluate, check to see if their system is even failing or not, and then go from there and get them into our program to get them fixed.
So with that being said, like, do you see most of homeowners actually contacting you and taking responsibility of this situation?
A lot do, yes.
That's good.
But there's obviously a lot also that don't. And
do you see them as like uneducated about the Catskill Watershed Corporation?
I think maybe it's some uneducated, like they're not educated about it. They don't know. They don't want the city involved in the process because the city is the regulator of the program. So they are going to be on site to make sure that it's designed correctly, installed correctly, working properly. You know, some people don't typically want that, but there's not much we can do about that. And then the other incentive with us is if you are a full-time resident, we will pay 100% of the replacement. You don't have to lay out any money out of your pocket. If this is your second home, we'll pay 60%.
Oh,
that's a pretty good deal. I'd like
if I freaking amazing deal.
Yeah, if I needed a septic replacement, I'd like you guys to pay even just 30%.
Yeah, so. No, it is a great program.
30%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Tad? What do you think Snyder's Tavern has with their septic system?
They have a maple tree out in the back of the parking lot with a stool next to it, so you have a place to put your beer.
Samantha, please tell me you know about Schneider's Tavern.
I don't think I do.
No
Oh my-
way. Oh, that's wrong. And you're the outreach coordinator?
Where is that?
Right? Right outside of Ashokan, kind of like the Ashokan area.
Yeah, it's on 28A.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you
It's
drive by, it looks like what was that movie? Psycho. Remember the hotel?
Psycho slash Beetlejuice.
Yes, that's
Okay.
it. That's what it looks like. Okay.
It's a bar. It's a bar. You maybe should outreach to them and see if
Yeah.
they need
Is it
one.
a popular bar?
I don't know. It depends what crowd you hang out with. So
Exactly.
So moving along, why don't you?
Yeah.
Why don't you So we've talked about the septic program. The other program that you have that struck my interest, which is on the other end of the spectrum, if you will, is the economic development program. Tell us about that.
So the economic development program is to help businesses, whether they start up, open up a completely new business, remodel their current business. They can come to us typically because our rate is probably better than a bank's rate, our interest rates. And we will loan them the money and they will have to pay it back to us at whatever term is agreed upon between the business owner and the CWC economic development team.
And so why is it that the city of New York through the CWC has an interest in loaning money to local businesses in the Catskills?
They want to create and retain jobs here in the watershed and support that. So I think this is just a way to help with that mission. And if we don't have jobs here in the watershed, my generation's not going to stay here.
Yeah.
So
And it's only building. That's what the thing is. It's only building. And the one thing I'm curious about is it's not from you, but of the people around the watershed areas that don't know about the CWC. I really want to know about like what the percentage wise. Do you have like any thought? I know it's a tough question. I just threw that out there. That was a curveball.
Yeah, I mean, I go to a lot of outreach events. They're mostly all inside of the watershed because there's no point in me doing outreach outside of the watershed because we can't really help anybody outside. But there's still a lot of people that'll come up to us and be like, "Oh, what do you do? We're not familiar." And I don't know how far people travel to some of these events, but I don't even know where the furthest point from like even our location inside of the watershed would be. Less than 2 hours.
Yeah.
So how far are these people traveling to these events that they don't know who we are?
So, but you do get out to the local schools and tell what the Catskill Watershed Corp does?
We don't, no.
No?
So it's up to the local schools to apply for a grant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's one of our challenges with our public education program is that program is the only program that moves outside of the West of Hudson watershed and allows New York City, the 5 boroughs of New York City, to apply for these grants. So majority of our applications each round is from New York City, not the West of Hudson schools.
Okay.
So, I mean, I do send flyers to these schools to try and let them know. I send emails. But another problem is the younger generation. I don't know if they don't know how to write grants. They have no time, no interest. I'm not sure what the struggle is there, but that is one of our concerns, struggles of how to move forward with educating our local kids about where they live.
So with this, our podcast is more of a hiking podcast, but I like to give kind of more of general information to people of the Catskills because you never know. Most of the hikers come from around outside of the Catskills, from New York City or where there's a Hudson Valley and stuff. So what grant businesses would a hiker likely be aware of when they come into the CWC and stuff like that?
As far as grants?
Yeah.
I mean, our education grants are, you know, mostly for schools, libraries, museums, vocational institutions, nonprofit organizations. And there's the three themes of fresh water, the New York City water supply system, and the West of Hudson watershed. They have to meet those three themes in order to apply for a grant to do some kind of either lesson in a classroom or public audience grant.
What about the economic development grants? Those go to local businesses, either startups or existing businesses?
Yes. Yeah.
So are there
Awesome.
any success stories out there, businesses that grant money was given to start up or expand their business? They got money from.
There's a ton. Even on our website, we have a little map that you can click on to show where, like, all the businesses that we've given money to in the West of Hudson watershed.
So give us some highlights if you can off the top of your head.
Off the top of your head.
Yeah, and who's doing well with that grant money? We know Schneider's is not on the list, but we're going to call them and ask them if they want a little money for landscape work out front or new signage.
So a big one that's constantly in the news is Maeve's Place.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, that place is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yep. So they had gotten a loan from us. They were actually just in another news article. I think it was last week, The Guardian, on their successes and how they're doing with their programs. Home Goods on Main Street, Margaretville, was another one that was a very successful. She really expanded when COVID hit and started bringing all kinds of produce and foods into her. It was, I think before that, just like a home supply store.
I remember that place.
You do remember it or you don't?
I do.
Yeah.
I do, yeah.
What else? I mean, there's a ton.
Any money given to like microbreweries, craft breweries?
Everybody loves that.
I believe we might have given a loan to Union Grove in Arkville.
Nice. All right. They got some good stuff.
Right down the corner from us. Margaretville Telephone Company has always been a big one.
That's actually very big due to, of course, the lack of, internet and stuff like that involved with the Catskills.
Yeah.
Getting them further up, of course, the Slide Mountain area, which we'll talk about earlier, Ted.
What I gather is if I'm a hiker that loves the Catskills and I want to get out of the daily grind in Manhattan or northern New Jersey or wherever it is I am, I just contact Samatha, say I want some grant money to open a business in the Catskills, and you're going to hook me up. Is that right?
It's not as simple as that. There's
there's some red tape.
A process to it. You have to create a business plan. You would have to probably do the same things that a bank would ask you to do, maybe even a little bit more detail. And then it has to go through like our economic development committee and then another committee, and then it goes to our board of directors. So it is a process, but I think in the end it's worth it. We're helping local businesses. We're a nonprofit ourselves, a small corporation. We're not some big name bank.
You said there are 12 people, right?
There's
22. 22 employees.
22-ish.
Wow.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah. So
unbelievable.
While Stosh is queuing up his next question, I'm going to sit down with pen and paper and finalize my business plan. I'm going to be I wanted to open in the Catskills a petting zoo for mountain lions. And I think I know where I can get some seed money to make that happen.
I think
Stosh?
we can help you with that.
Excellent. I just have to come up with a catchy name for my...
And maybe some mountain lions.
Well, those are easy to find. Stosh and I know... Yes. We've seen plenty.
They're all over the place.
I don't doubt it.
Catskill, Troy.
I recently encountered some baby bobcat.
Really?
Ooh, beautiful.
Tell
you
us.
sure they weren't mountain lions? Because everybody says bobcats are mountain lions.
I am 100% positive it was not a mountain lion. I was actually coming back from a job site for work, and I was in Roxbury, Do you know where the Roxbury Motel is? The fancy,
Yes.
the
They-
rooms,
Mhm.
the
Of course.
themed rooms.
Yeah.
That was also a very successful economic development loan that they had gotten from us.
That's so
There you
beautiful.
go.
But I was just down the road from there and I saw 4 of them in the road.
Wow.
3 went one way and 1 went the other. And I'm like, hold on, wait a second. I'm going to park my car right here until this other little guy gets back with his family. And I obviously took my phone out and he came right back, ran across the street and went back to his little siblings there. I didn't see mom, but I'm sure she wasn't far.
So amazing experiences, aren't they?
Yes.
Like I saw a red fox the other day and I was excited as heck just to see a red fox run across the road in front of me. And this was going down towards Bethel Woods.
Okay.
So it was absolutely fantastic. I was just excited as heck. So now, Samantha, we talk about the area of the CWC. Can you kind of like the towns kind of like border the area that you guys like originated, work within? That's I know that's a tough one, but I'm curious because you said you're with Roxbury. I didn't know you go. Of course, that's kind of like the Neversink area and such. I'm just very curious, kind of like where your borders are at. We have the Neversink, the Pekapakan, the Ashokan, the Schoharie, right? You guys do with Schoharie, right?
Yep.
Do you guys go down to
The
Croton?
round out and the never sink.
Okay,
No,
so
we
you don't go
as
to
far as the Croton.
west, yep, round out and then Neversink.
Yep.
Nice.
So, so like Neversink, Denning, down that way around those 2 reservoirs. Then we have in Ulster County, you have Shandaken, some parts of Woodstock, Olive, and then Schoharie County, got Hunter,
lot of towns, yep.
Lexington, Wyndham, Jewett, Conesville,
Grand Gorge, stuff like that.
Grand Gorge, Prattsville, Roxbury, Hawkett, obviously the town of Middletown, Andes, Bovina, Stamford, parts of Courtright, Delhi, Walton, Hamden,
Downsville.
parts of Downs.
Parts of yeah.
Yep.
So many towns. Wow.
Yeah. So when you look at the Catskill, Delaware watershed map, it's a little overwhelming, but it's very informative too, to see. I'm going to say such a small area, but I think it's like 1,600 square miles.
Wow.
And all of this stuff happens within just this one particular area.
Awesome. So now, once again, if you're in this area and you have a first or second home and you need a new septic system, let's not have that overflow and go into our local streams because, to be honest, when I was a kid, I had that happen. Not happen, but I've had the septic system was so old that it overflowed and it was the most disgusting thing I've ever
Yeah, it's not fun.
seen. It's not fun at all.
And then you sometimes have older homes that have like a metal septic tank. So the newer septic tanks are concrete.
Yep.
The older ones are metal. And a lot of the times when somebody contacts us and they want to get their septic replaced, a contractor pumping company typically won't pump out a metal tank because they're afraid it's going to collapse.
Wow.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
And then you have a lot of that are just a cesspool, which is laid up stone.
Yikes.
55-gallon drum in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
This is why we always filter our water, hikers.
I believe our guys maybe had found like an old car that was buried that was being used as a septic system.
That would be my house.
You see it all.
Tad's second house.
Yeah. Well, the message is if you're thinking of buying a house up in the Catskills, it's one of the things to check out that these older homes, particularly the ones that were built before 1900 or before 1920, are very unlikely to have modern septic systems unless it was upgraded, from 1980 to date.
And I believe it is also a requirement for in a home inspection if you're trying to get a mortgage, because we do have a lot of real estate agencies and homeowners that are contacting us to see if we have any kind of record on a specific property that they're looking to purchase on the septic system.
That makes sense. Yeah. They often
definitely.
They do what they call the dye test, where they flush a block of dye down the toilet, and then
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
yeah, they wait to see if they see that colored water coming to the surface, almost like, the oil, discovering oil type of thing. So Samantha, you mentioned earlier on the memorandum of agreement and that it was negotiated over a period of years. Do you know what the background of that memorandum of agreement is?
So a lot of it had to do with New York City wanting to establish a reservoir, system around here, taking over people's properties with the eminent domain, relocating people, cemeteries, discontinuing farms, all of that. So the memorandum of agreement was pretty much an agreement between the city and the upstate communities to come up with an agreement to avoid putting in a filtration system. So in all of my reading, I believe the numbers coming back were saying that it was going to be like $6 to $8 billion to build this filtration plant, and then an additional 500 million annually just in operating costs.
Yeah.
So that's when the communities came together to try and come up with a solution of these specific programs to avoid having to deal with this plant and the annual cost of it. So when the agreement, came about, there was just the certain key programs that were part of the initial agreement. And that's when I was saying earlier of the dollar amounts. So it was like the septic program, operating program, the stormwater retrofit, the economic development, a tax consulting. There was a sand and salt storage facility program as well to create facilities to maintain the salt for our highways. So in a rain event or something, it wasn't washing into our streams.
That's actually a problem up in the Catskills and the water up there. With all the salt they use on the roads up there in the winter, it's been ruining people's wells. And of course, in the Catskills, if a municipal's stockpile of road salt was left out in the open and you get one of these torrential downpours or like Hurricane Irene coming in, it's all going to eventually wash into the reservoir. And then what do? Empty the reservoir out, to get rid of the salt? You're stuck with it for a long, long time.
Yes. So that was one of the programs. We don't have it anymore. I'm not sure when that was discontinued, but that was one of the original programs with the MOA.
Yeah, all the municipalities probably now have indoor salt storage, so it's not an issue.
Yep.
Yeah. And one of the things I heard is the backstory to the MOA was that the federal EPA came up with these new regulations that required open reservoirs like the city of New York has. They mandated filtration, that all the water go through a series of filters to remove sediment and other particles. And as you point out, Samantha, that was hugely expensive to the city of New York. And the city of New York desperately wanted to avoid paying billions of dollars. And the city's solution was they were going to just start buying up more land around the reservoirs. And that land couldn't be built on. It couldn't be disturbed. And that way they would have less of a worry or risk of sediments and other things like untreated sewage getting into the water. But all the locals, the local governments in the Catskill watershed were up in arms over that because it would take property off the tax roll or diminish the tax rates because this property wouldn't be built on. And as you pointed out earlier, would also deprive the area of economic development because there would be fewer people living up here and less land and area for business and development. So Over the course of a few years, there was a series of negotiations that led to this memorandum of understanding, and then your company, the Catskill Watershed Corporation, is the product of that effort,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
To kind of balance the needs of the city of New York with the needs and interests of the local community.
Yes, that is correct. So there's 41 towns in the west of Hudson watershed that all have part in this agreement.
And so after all of these years, I think the memorandum of agreement goes back to the 90s. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe like 1990 was when it was, kind of starting and then going through all kinds of negotiations and trying to come up with a solution and programs. They finally kind of came to an agreement in 95.
Just imagine that 95, we didn't have emails. So that was paper or just talking face to face.
I think it was all face to face.
Yeah. Wow.
From everything that I've read or seen or pictures or anything like that, there's been a lot of roundtable discussions.
Yeah.
Guys with cigars in boardrooms.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. You can see the smoke in the picture.
Yeah, right.
So Samantha, how do you think it worked out? It's been almost 30 years. You're kind of on the point for a lot of this. How do you think that relationship between the city of New York, its DEP, and those 40-some local governments in the Catskill watershed?
I mean, we all have to work together, whether anybody likes it or not.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we have good relationships with them. We have discussions, we talk things out, we try to come to an agreement still. If one party is in agreement with something and we're in agreement with something else, we try to meet in the middle. Sometimes those conversations take a little bit longer, but we do come to an agreement. And a big thing with that is our contracts for all of these programs. They have to be renewed every certain amount of years for each one. And a couple years before that contract is up is when the conversations start of things to change, things to add, subtract, what to do to make this better.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it takes a couple years to come to an agreement, but in the end, it's benefiting both the city and these west of Hudson communities, whether someone wants to agree with that or not. Go outside of the watershed. You're not going to get your septic paid for free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
I'm outside of the watershed, and if my septic fails, I got to write the check.
Yeah, right.
Check, or you have to move
to the watershed.
The watershed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wish the outside education of people, within the watershed could reach this far, because I mean, so many people listen to this podcast, and I wish it would expand more to get this knowledge out of the Catskill Watershed Corporation, because there's so many organizations out there that could help you with your first home or your second home within the watershed or without, actually.
Yep.
Yeah. And to that point, Samantha, why don't you, tomorrow morning when you go back to the office, why don't you talk to the person who has the checkbook with all that grant money and write out a big check to Inside the Line for promotion, new equipment,
So we don't need it. We
can get the message. Don't turn down free money. Okay.
We have all that. We're in a brand new building.
Yeah, I saw your building. It's very.
Is that down in Margaretville?
Arkville.
Yeah.
Arkville. Oh,
right next to the rec center.
Yeah. You drive
nice.
by. The first time I drove by it, I was like, I had to put on the brakes. I'm like, it looked like a medical facility at first because it was so nice. Can't. I mean, it's like a head and shoulders above any other facility, it seemed, in the area. But I also seem to remember that the recreational building was nice too.
Yes,
it was.
So did the city pay for that?
No. I believe that was funded by the Goulds.
Oh, the
Goulds. What? No way.
Yes, they have a lot to do with that.
No way. This is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna challenge this. I'm gonna.
Yeah, we're gonna
contact the Goulds.
Yeah.
We have a big thing with the Goulds, of course, because we're 3,500 people and they shut those mountains down. So But
Did you know that, Samantha? Did you know that the Goulds kicked us off their mountains?
I don't know that they kicked you off, but I live in that valley,
Mm-hmm.
so I am familiar with how much property they own,
Yeah.
and
It's beautiful over there.
it is
it
phenomenal.
is.
Yeah.
I understand and I don't understand at the same time. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Well,
do.
then, yeah.
I do.
So
I understand.
do
I
you
get it.
drive to get to work? Do you drive down the Drybrook Road?
I live on Dry Brook Road, yes.
Oh, you
So
get to see Graham and
yeah.
Double Top all the time.
Yeah. So is Mike Kudish your neighbor? Do you know Mike?
He is just up the road from me.
Yeah. Wow.
No way.
Small world.
Small world. You know,
Mm.
the funny thing is, Samantha, I probably went on your property years upon years ago
Yeah.
searching for that one guy that had dementia.
Oh,
I probably wandered upon your property, was knocking on your door asking.
That's how
He
Stash
was,
and I met.
oh, really?
Yeah, I was the guy with dementia.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, not
I'm
really.
glad you recovered.
Yeah. Well,
So now,
yeah.
so Samantha, what is the role of community with the CWC?
So our community are the people who are involved in our programs. They're our employees. All of our employees live within the watershed. If, the community members in the 41 towns are the ones that elect the supervisors that are on our board of directors. So without the community, we wouldn't be what we are. They take part in our programs. They're our businesses. They're creating our economy.
Right. Yeah. So if you're within that area, contact the CWC if you need a new air sewage kind of stuff or any means upon that. Just contact them for anything.
Yeah, absolutely. We are always open, welcome to any kind of questions. If we can't specifically help you, we can help you find where you need to be.
So what is the biggest challenge that the CWC faces?
The biggest challenge, I had mentioned it a little bit, was with our contracts, with the negotiations with the city. They are much more complicated than they were when we first started 25 years ago. The city now requires more reporting, more documentation. So that puts a little bit more strain on our staff here to make sure that we are meeting all of the requirements that they're asking for. But probably the bigger challenge that we face is the history. We're losing the history as the generations go on. We don't know how things were. Like my generation doesn't know what everybody went through. Obviously, losing their homes, getting kicked off of their property. But we don't know the history of the MOA. There's books and books and books and videos and recordings. But that's what we're losing. We're losing the history, and it's really important for the newer staff coming in, like myself, to learn how we got to where we are today. And if we can't do that, we're losing so much value in what we are as a corporation, because we can't appreciate what we have because we don't know what we have. We just know we're the Catskill Watershed Corporation, and that's that. We don't know how we got there.
Yeah. So are you referencing that part of this history that's fading away is what life was like in the Catskills and for the local governments and community before the CWC came into existence?
Yes, possibly.
Yeah.
Yes, there is certainly so much history that nobody can fully explain unless they actually lived it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there are documents, there's photos, there's all kinds of information out there for us to learn how it happened.
Yeah. Well, maybe the CWC ought to hire a historian, somebody that can, systematically collect, compile, organize, and distill into a document, a text, a video.
There's books out there explaining it, but we need to read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the main goal here. And even myself, there's a lot of things that preparing for this interview that I've been researching and looking up that I didn't know.
Mm-hmm. So why don't you tell us, in connection with preparing for sitting on the hot seat with Stash and I, what was one of the more interesting things that you discovered that you weren't aware of before?
Just even the process of the MOA, that, the negotiations that were going on between these upstate communities and these people who, had no clue what was to come of it. But they fought. They fought hard because they believed in this area. They believed in protecting the water. They wanted to see a change in a way that they could help.
Mm-hmm. Also, you haven't said this, but you're, I think, a living example of the fact that if I raised my family in the watershed and the city of New York, to comply with EPA regulations, was going to have to start buying up land, which would necessarily limit economic opportunities and housing opportunities in the Catskills, I would look at that as a threat to my family living in the area.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so do you think that the CWC has been successful or valuable in preserving and promoting housing and economic opportunities to the locals?
Housing is a tough subject. As I'm sure everywhere else, housing in general is an issue right now.
At least you're honest.
Yeah, there is no affordable housing.
Yep.
Which isn't something that we typically, dive into. But yeah, CWC, we're trying to retain jobs by helping the businesses. Even within our own organization, keeping local kids in the area, offering internships. If any high school, college kid came to us looking for an internship in something that, they're interested in, that could possibly lead to a future here for them to stay here, we're going to try to help them. We're not going to turn them away. We want to see our local kids growing up here, raising families here. Pretty much everybody that works in our office is mostly local here, or they grew up here, they have family here, they have a connection to this area some way or another. And that's what we want.
I remember reading something about that, like the three like officers of the CWC, one has to be a local representative of the past like 20, 30 years or something like that. It's really cool that they appoint these people that are local residents to represent the CWC.
That's all. That's our board members. We have 15 board members. They're all elected officials and town supervisors. So that's what our board is comprised of, is those
It's like
they know
15
the
people
area.
they know the area, and then there's like one person that's from New York City. So that's good. That's good from my perspective.
Yeah, but even like the city official that is on our board, they're maybe in Kingston. So, it's not like they're living in the city. They're, they work for the city, but they live rather close. So they're familiar with the area. They're familiar with how things work here.
Yeah. And they're familiar with the local impact.
Yeah.
That when the city of New York flexes its muscles in the Catskills, it kind of is overpowering to the local governments. So it's good that they have the CWC protecting everyone in the local area as a unified entity.
Yes.
Yeah. And we thank you for that. And, you can always check out the CWC, the Catskill Watershed Corporation, online and such like that, and see their progress and stuff. Hopefully, Samantha, you guys will get going a little bit more in the social media presence within the next couple months. Hopefully, I mean, this kind of boosts you up. I know there's only like 8 people that listen to this, so Hopefully it'll help.
That's okay. We will share it.
8 people.
We do quite a bit on social media now. We obviously could do much more.
It's a
but
big impact.
It is.
Do you guys have a Facebook? I know that.
We have a Facebook, we have an Instagram.
Instagram. Okay. I will tag both of those in this, by the way.
Yes, we do have both. They're both active.
The only thing you shouldn't do is start a podcast. Facebook and Instagram is okay. Podcast, leave it to Stash and I.
I don't think I'm ready for a podcast.
I don't know. You did pretty good tonight.
Yeah, we'll have you back. We'll have you back. We'll try to get you back in the next 3 to 6 months for an update and give us a heads up. I need that long
to recover. Thank you.
We'll talk about your sewage experiences and stuff. How you walking through the muck and stuff like that.
It's happened. It's happened. I've been to construction sites where there's a wet spot and you just don't think about it when you walk through it.
I understand. So Samantha, let's wrap things up a little bit. So you're a local. So this will be, I love it. What is your post-hike Brews and Bites recommendation? Where do you like to go after doing something in the Catskills?
I don't do a whole lot. I can't tell you the last time I hiked, so I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Where do I like to go? I'm at work. I like going to work.
Yeah, but where do you like to go to eat and stuff, like for dinner and stuff?
Where to eat? There's not many options around here. Every place seems to be closing. I go to the Arkville Bread and Breakfast a lot.
Okay, that's a good one.
I also worked there for 10 years.
Wow.
So I'm a little biased, maybe.
What about what's it called? You got to be kidding me! I love this place.
Was it the Outpost? Is that the name of it?
Well, that's one of them, but there's the place right outside of Arkville. That's the Arkville Wooden Tavern or Wooden Pizza. I always mention. Yeah, Oakley's. Jesus.
I haven't been there in quite a few years.
It's so good. I gotta admit.
So I enjoy. I don't know how long it's been since you've been there. The old owners of Oakley's opened up a wood-fired pizza food truck.
Oh.
So that is my favorite go-to. It's called Catskill Mountain Embers.
Oh, that's new.
And where do we find it?
On Friday and Saturday nights, they're usually parked at Union Grove Distillery.
Oh.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
I can't believe I haven't heard that. So
that is my that's my Friday night go-to.
All right. That's fantastic.
Yes.
So once again, thank you, Samantha, for joining us tonight. Thank you for chatting with us about the CWC. Really appreciate it. I'd like to big shout out to the monthly supporters, the monthly sponsors. Really appreciate you guys donating to the show. Thank you to everyone who is still listening to the show. 140 episodes in. Samantha comes with us and talks about the CWC and how important they are to the Catskill community, to the Catskill Watershed area, and the Catskill reservoirs. Hope you had a good time, Samantha. I hope we didn't stress you out too much.
No, not too much, but thank you guys for having me. It's been a blast.
Thanks, Samantha.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Hope you have a good night, and let's keep in touch.
All right, sounds good. Thank you guys. You enjoy your night as well.
You too.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Hi, everyone. I just want to thank you for listening to the show. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe and throw down a smooth review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any podcast platform that you use. You can also check daily updates of the podcast, hikes, hiking news, and local news on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the official website of the show. Remember this, you gotta just keep on living in the Catskills, man. Livin.
Wicked.